Week 1, Friday night, under the lights, we got some opening weekend high school football here in the beautiful state of Vermont, as the Rutland Raiders, one of the favorites to win the state championship this year, will be taking on Bellows Falls Prep, as Bellows Falls is not one of the better teams in the state. However, they do have 5-star wide receiver Malik Brown, the number 7 receiver in the country, phenomenal player. He's decided to stay home rather than transfer somewhere big. First down for Bellows Falls is Harris. He's going to take a shot deep, and he's going to find Malik Brown for the touchdown. What a start to this game. Bellows Falls in the red zone trying to tie up this game to end the first half. And it's who else but Malik Brown grabbing his second score of the day. First offensive play of the second half for the Terriers is Malik Brown has it deep, and Brown has broken the school record for most receiving yards in a game, which he set last year. It is first down after the big 66-yard gain by Malik Brown, as it's going to be a touchdown for, of course, number 1, Malik Brown. 27-21. Rutland up. 3 seconds to go. This is the game. Harris looking to throw. He's going to find Malik Brown for the touchdown. His 4th of the game. Are you kidding me? And Malik Brown's touchdown will win the game for Bellows Falls. Malik Brown is already committed to Westlake. What a pickup for the Hornets. What a talent Westlake is getting in Malik Brown, the number 8 receiver in the nation. I think I said he was the number 7, but you know what I mean. From Bellows Falls, Vermont, has already committed to the Hornets. He led his team to an upset over the Rutland Raiders with a tally of 12 catches, 341 yards, and all 4 touchdowns, including the game winner. What a performance he had. Westlake is getting such a good player. He's a very well-rounded receiver. He has good hands. He's a very solid route runner, and he's pretty athletic. He's solid, but not great with the football in his hands. Westlake is getting themselves a great, great player. But he's not the only player on this recruiting board. Westlake's going after a bunch of phenomenal football players. So why not showcase their talents here? And let's see who Westlake is going after. Let's start our recruiting highlights tour here in Texas, where everything is bigger and better, starting with junior Lewis Kahn, a player we looked at last year when he was a high school sophomore. He's put on a decent amount of weight, and that's helped him become stronger, get to the quarterback, and stop the run easier. However, it has hampered his athleticism a little bit in coverage. However, I don't think that's too big of a deal since he's such a great athlete that it won't hurt him too much, and I do expect him to be a 5-star next year as a high school senior. The next guy we have here is a defensive end, a player we looked at last year. His name is Marquise Bolton from Westlake Village, California. It's only meant to be, right? Bolton is the number 3 defensive end in the country. Very good technique at getting to the quarterback. Stanford is heavy favorites for him. However, the Westlake Hornets are definitely still in that battle, hoping to acquire him onto their team. Very solid player. He's a big guy. He can stop the run. You could probably put him inside if you want. Maybe he's a little bit light, but I like his versatility, and I think he could do that. Next up, we have a tight end, the number 2 tight end in the country from Colorado. His name is Ronald Young. As you can see, Young is making an impact on the blocking game, but I like him most as a receiver. He has pretty good hands, and while Westlake doesn't use their tight ends a whole lot, I think Ronald Young could change that once he becomes a starter, as Sandu Fishing does have a few more seasons at that starting position. But Young is a super talented player, and I think if Westlake were to get him, they would try to get him early playing time, even though they already have Jeff Washington and Sandu Fishing. The next guy we have here is just a sophomore. He's a super intriguing athlete by the name of Stephen Westwood from Burmester, Utah. Westwood made the varsity team this year. He's in a big family and has been doubted, even though he's the oldest child. However, he's played quarterback, running back, and receiver. I would say he's sort of like Taysom Hill, but with Drew Brees' arm. He is incredible, and he still has a lot more time in high school to go. Don't know where he's going to play in college, whether that's quarterback, running back, or receiver. And why not take a look at his cousin, Braxton Westwood, who also happens to be a high school sophomore. Stephen and Braxton are very close. They're very competitive with each other. Every day they visit their great-grandmother, who is unfortunately on her deathbed. But that doesn't matter, as these two love to play for their great-grandmother, and once she does eventually pass away, they will always have her in their thoughts, and her presence will make them even better. Next up, we have a junior safety, very rangy, very solid in coverage, coming from Slovenia. He first moved when he was in 8th grade. This is his 4th year in the country, and this is his 4th year of English. So his English is still a little bit raw, but that hasn't hampered him from becoming a really good player on the football field. His name is Marcos Dedic. He's going to be maybe a 5-star or a 4-star. We'll see. He's not particularly big, and he needs to work on his tackling and his run game presence. However, he is phenomenal in coverage. You could probably put him at corner if you want to. He's pretty versatile. Next up, we have a 5-star running back, the number 2 player in the nation. We've been looking at him for a couple years. Now he's a senior. His name is Dante Savage. Savage is, I think, the best high school prospect I've ever seen, especially at running back. He is 6'4", and he runs a sub-4.35 40-yard dash with a blend of power, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He gets you Adrian Peterson, Marshawn Lynch, and Saquon Barkley all in one player. Such a phenomenal football player. Westlake is the favorite to get him. Next up, we have a defensive tackle, the number 2 defensive tackle in the country, a 4-star by the name of Demetrius Stevens. 2-team race between Westlake and Alabama. The Crimson Tide are currently favorites. However, Westlake definitely has a chance to get him, as they could use some help at defensive tackle. QJ Casimir is a junior, and Westlake doesn't really have their replacement for him yet. Maybe Jacob Brown, but since the Hornets are a 4-3, they need that second guy alongside Jacob Brown or whoever the long-term starter is, and I think that player could absolutely be Demetrius Stevens. And the last player we have here is a defensive end by the name of Ray Johnson. Johnson will be visiting the campus next week against Oregon, and after that, I do expect him to commit to the Hornets, as Westlake does have a big lead. Colorado sort of wants to join the battle, but it's likely too little too late. While Johnson is somewhat undersized, he is 6'4", which is pretty tall. I'm saying his weight is a little bit undersized for a defensive end. Not phenomenal in the run, but I like him as a pass rusher, and I think he could be really good on this Westlake defensive line. So that is it for the player highlights. However, we will be going through the entire recruiting board. There you have it, folks. That's the Westlake recruiting special. Now we're going to go over each position and see the players we are going after. Starting with quarterback, only one on the board. That is Steve Alvarez, who already committed. He was an insta-commit. After running back position, Westlake is going after 4. John Holland, the number 4 running back in the country, has already committed by insta-commit. Jamal Hill from Pullman, Virginia. That's a 3-team battle between Westlake, Rutgers, and NC State. And then the number 1 and number 2 running backs in the country, respectively, starting with Dante Savage. Westlake is the favorite to get him. He will be visiting in just a couple of weeks against the Tennessee Volunteers, and will hopefully commit after that. Such a well-rounded player. I think he's a more impressive prospect than Malik Brown, but we did that intro segment for Brown since he already committed. And then the number 2 running back in the country, Jason Gibbs. He could be a really nice compliment for Savage. He's a 5-star from Archdale, North Carolina. Westlake, I believe, is the only team who's offered him a scholarship up to this point. At wide receiver, Westlake is going after 2, both of whom 5 stars, with the first one, of course, being Malik Brown, and the other one is from Edmonton, Canada, Noah Newton. 2-team race between the Hornets and Penn State. Penn State currently the favorites to get him. However, they have not offered him a scholarship yet, whereas Westlake has. At tight end, Ronald Young, a player we talked about, the number 2 tight end in the country. That's a 2-team race between Westlake and Arizona. The number 1 tight end in the country is Ryan Rogers. No one's really going after him yet. I want to say Westlake is the only team to offer him a scholarship. No, that's actually not true. Iowa and Mississippi State have both offered scholarships. And then Jason Morris, a 3-star, likely going to become a Hornet. On the offensive line, 3 tackles, starting with Nate Nelson, who has already committed via insta-commit. Eric Brooks, who is pretty much going to Air Force. He is a 4-star. And then a 3-star Scott Newman. Pretty interesting race. The Hornets are the favorites to land him. Now on the defense, 2 defensive ends, both of whom we looked at in the recruiting special, starting with Marquise Bolton, the number 3 end of the country, looking very good for Stanford up to this point. And they have the first visit, so I'd be shocked if they don't get him. However, Westlake and Arizona in the battle. And then Ray Johnson, who is visiting this week against the Oregon Ducks, will likely commit after the visit. At defensive tackle, Demetrius Stevens, super good football player, the second-ranked defensive tackle in the country. It is a two-team race between Westlake and Alabama. Alabama definitely is the upper edge, but the Hornets are hoping they land him. Currently going after one middle linebacker, that is Garrett Racine from Salt Lake City. He will likely be a 2-year starter once Owen Jackson graduates. Jackson is not a starter this year, but will be a starter for the next 3 seasons. Currently, New Mexico is in the lead for him. At cornerback, two-team race for 3-star Ricky Berry between Westlake and Stanford. At safety, Kenny Young. Another really close race between Iowa and Westlake. And then at strong safety, Craig Hughes will likely become a Hornet. And then athletes. There are 4 Westlakes going after, starting with the number 2 athlete in the country, Andy Pino from Baltimore, Maryland. We did not look at him in the recruiting special because I don't know why. He looks like he could probably play cornerback, I would assume is where he could go. He could also potentially play wide receiver. Patrick Daly, I want to say he's the number 3 athlete. Yes, he is. He will likely play maybe D-back, maybe running back. And then Frank Bray, a 4-star, the number 15 athlete in the country. He will likely play, I'd assume, wide receiver. And then Bryant Thompson, Maryland, is in the lead. He will likely play probably somewhere on the defensive side of the ball. Not entirely sure where that would be. So that'll end the video. I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Next episode will be against the number 11 ranked 3-0 Oregon Ducks. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And as always, have a good one.